The face that has ensnared thousands. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Some of you might think I'm going to be talking about myself in relation to that title. Well, I can understand why you might think it is relevant to me, but it isn't. Although I have snared many people, in this instance, I'm going to be talking about somebody else. The Internet. The Internet is a playground for my kind. It enables us to reach so many more people so easily and have so many fishing lines, if you will, in the water at once that, understandably, many people wonder how on earth did the narcissist manage before the advent of the Internet and social media and dating apps, etc. Well, we did, but that's a tale for another day. What it has meant is that more people who've been exposed to the behaviour of narcissists, in that those narcissists are able to dupe people by way of being a love fraud or a financial fraud, and in some instances combining the two, taking money, a residual benefit, from people under the auspices of love. Now, it's worth pointing out that not all scammers on the internet are narcissists. Often, they're normals. These normals don't have any emotional empathy for their victims because they don't know them. Furthermore, the limited emotional empathy that they have is not for somebody who is a stranger to them over the internet, but is for the individuals that are around them. They have a limited circle of emotional empathy, but they could, for instance, demonstrate considerable emotional empathy for the people within that circle, their children, for instance, or their spouse. Often, these scammers are in circumstances where they're not particularly well off themselves, and that external stressor, furthermore, reduces any emotional empathy that might exist for third parties. Thus, in many instances, those who find themselves subjected to the Nigerian prince kind of email, or the individual that is flirtatious and draws an individual in for the purpose of getting money out of them, may actually be a normal who has little or no emotional empathy for that victim, and circumstances drives them to seek money. There are, of course, many narcissists that also operate in this way. There is the absence of emotional empathy, a sense of entitlement, the drawing of fuel from the responses of their victims, and the pursuit of the residual benefit of money. But in this instance, we see how the behaviour of individuals, both narcissists and uncaring normals, can not only affect the individuals who are being scammed in the first place, but also an entirely innocent third party who finds himself subject to character trait acquisition. Charlotte Wace writes in The Times as follows. Mary Chater had been preparing to host her first Christmas party since the death of her husband when she was approached online by an attractive man who described himself as a UN doctor. Already there you have two attractive traits. He's physically attractive and he's a doctor with the UN. Her Facebook profile was open, and she'd just uploaded a photograph showing the mince pies she had baked when the man, who called himself Danny, sent her a friend request before complimenting her appearance, flattery, and commenting on the party preparations, mirroring. It was December 2022, and almost 2.5 years since Chater, now 65, had lost her partner of 23 years, Julian Curry, the actor best known for playing Claude Erskine Brown in Rumpole of the Bailey. They always held festive parties together, and that Christmas she had finally felt up to hosting a celebration by herself, as well as being open to the possibility of meeting someone new. I suppose because I was feeling not vulnerable exactly, but sort of open to a relationship, I stupidly just thought, "Oh, he's very nice," she said. The relationship developed quickly. Note that hallmark of haste on the part of the pursuer, with intimate conversations and video calls, before Cheta, an actress and writer, agreed to send money to help fund the doctor's medical research. Residual benefit. Note that she is being seduced. Seduced at speed, intimate conversations, video calls, and this results in her believing she's doing something good by helping fund his medical research. Weeks later, she discovered that the attractive man in the photographs was Christian Gerhard Boving, a doctor and television personality in Denmark, whose identity had been stolen by romance fraudsters. Cheta is just one of potentially thousands of people who have been targeted by scammers, either posing as Boving or using his image to create fake profiles. Thus, here we have the scammers that have the primary victim, namely Cheta and other people like her, but then there is a secondary victim, which is Boving, who's having his identity and image stolen. Some victims are thought to have lost vast sums of money to the fraudsters, or have even left their husbands for men they believe to be the doctor. Although Cheta's bank blocked some payments and refunded the others, the emotional effects have been long-lasting. The shame was unbearable, and I am only now telling my close friends about it, she said. It kind of pulled the rug from under my feet and definitely destabilised me. He just knew how to unlock my heart in an instant, and that's devastating. That points to the likelihood of the individual that was behaving in this way to her was her likely to be a narcissist with that intrinsic knowledge of how to get within her heart. She said it was mental abuse. Over in Denmark, the real Boving is at a loss as to what he can do. As well as feeling desperately sorry for the romance fraud victims, the widespread theft of his identity has had a devastating impact on his own life. Scammers have been impersonating him for a decade, and in that time, he thinks that there could have been around 7,000 fake profiles across social media and dating apps. He has been approached by hundreds of women who have fallen victim to his impersonators and spends around an hour each day replying to them and reporting fraudulent accounts. I don't know what to do. I feel so sorry for all these people, he told the Times. You know, I'm gay. I'm married to a guy. I didn't ask for this. I'm a victim myself. Boving first experienced identity theft in 2013 when friends alerted him to a profile on a dating app that was using his picture while he was a military doctor stationed in Afghanistan. While the police dealt with that case, the problem continued and has worsened significantly over the past 3 years. When Boving approached police in Denmark more recently, they were unable to help, he claimed. He's even been reported to the police himself by women who wrongly believed he was the scammer. Photographs show his face cleverly edited onto an American passport and a World Health Organization membership card. Boving has a young daughter and avoids posting photographs of her online after she was used as bait by scammers. Triangulation, he said. The most harrowing case he has heard of involved a German woman who was targeted by an impersonator claiming to be on a warship. The scammer went on to tell the woman that his daughter had died and asked for money to pay for the funeral until he could get home. This guy shows up at her door and she says, like, 1,000 euros. Then she goes to the funeral and, of course, there is no funeral, Boving said. Others broke relationships with their husbands. They were so much in love with me, he continued. I have the children of 2 women writing to me that their mum has fallen in love. She doesn't believe she's been scammed, and she keeps sending money directly to Nigeria. In some instances, videos have been created using artificial intelligence, and women believe they have had genuine conversations with him. That's just the beginning, and it's getting worse. AI is here to stay, and it'll be a huge problem in the future for sure, he added. As well as his appearance, Boving suspects he has been targeted by scammers because of the variety of his photographs. In Denmark, where he now works as a GP and has a skincare brand, he's a public figure, and has shared many details about his life on social media. He formerly worked for the Danish royal family on their yacht, and, as well as serving in the military, has made regular television appearances. Boving also hosted a survival television show describing himself as a Danish Bear Grylls and enjoys a number of outdoor pursuits such as hunting and kayaking. But despite his fame in Denmark, he's virtually unknown in the UK and many countries across the globe. For Cheta, the main attraction to Boving's pictures had been his resemblance to an Italian man she'd been in a relationship while a student at Oxford University. It also marked her first romantic approach since becoming a widow. Notice, her vulnerabilities have been used against her. As her husband had died during the pandemic, she spent much of the aftermath on her own. "We were made for one another," she said of her marriage, "so I'd been used to a fantastic amount of affection. And suddenly, I was getting it from someone online." Notice that this is an intelligent woman, but her emotional thinking betrays her. The fact that she had a loving marriage and she had lost her husband, which naturally upset her terribly and left her with a huge hole in her life, a narcissist comes along and is able to fill that hole by mirroring the affections, by making her feel cared about and loved. She and the scammer began speaking regularly, and Danny told Cheta stories about the inspiration for his medical career. He claimed to be a trauma doctor working in Somalia and said he'd previously worked in Chicago. "It was really detailed," she said. "That's partly what drew me into the spider's web, caught me in his cobweb, as it were." They began to speak on video chats, but Danny claimed that there was something wrong with the camera at his end. In an attempt to reassure Cheta, he met her a couple of times with his camera turned on. But the room he appeared in was dark, and it appeared as though he had enlarged his Facebook image to cover his face. She recalled, "I could see his body, but it was so dark I couldn't see whether his mouth was in sync with the words. It's very clever of him, and I said, 'I'm really not sure if that's you or if you're pretending.' So that sowed doubts in my mind." Cheta had initially received requests for money from someone claiming to be the man's son. She refused, but then Danny began asking for money to fund medical research, which he eventually agreed to, residual benefit. He asked for online gift cards, claiming it was safer than sending cash, which Cheta purchased from high street shops. She later made attempts to transfer money from her bank, which did not go through. Her bank nationwide became suspicious and raised concerns that she was being scammed. Cheta agreed to stop talking to Danny, but within days, her resolve crumbled and then resumed communicating. That again demonstrates the power of the addiction that exists, that even though she's been warned that she's being scammed, and she recognises that there may be a problem, that addiction persuades her to continue the communication. Nationwide intervened again when she made another attempt to send money, and after further conversations with the bank's team, she realised she had been defrauded. Danny, who was aware she had become suspicious, then claimed his real name was Boving, whose photographs he'd stolen. When Cheta looked up the name online, she saw social media posts warning about scams using the real doctor's identity. "It kind of knocked me for six for quite a time afterwards," she said. "It knocked my faith in my own judgment, because the whole time I was thinking, I wonder if this is a scam. But then the other part of me didn't want it to be a scam. I wanted it to be real." Boving believes social media companies could do more to prevent scammers from operating. He claimed he'd struggled in particular to get fake accounts removed from Facebook. He estimated that around 2,500 fake profiles of him had been set up on the platform in recent years. In July, he emailed Facebook's parent company, Meta, with a list of dozens of profiles that remain online despite being reported. In the email, he said the fake profiles were damaging my reputation and described being regularly harassed by women. As of December 2023, most of the profiles on the list were still active. Doctors and people in the military are often targeted. This is because their backgrounds allow scammers to create perfect scenarios. For instance, the scammers can claim to be overseas in war-torn countries and cite security reasons or a poor internet connection as excuses for keeping their cameras off in video calls. They might also claim to have difficulty accessing bank accounts when they ask for money, which is often requested in the form of gift cards. Amongst romance scams, military and doctors are the top two. Another doctor, Dr. Vasily Vucevic, who lives in Belgrade, has also been targeted by scammers and told a newspaper how one fake account in his name had 230,000 followers. In this instance, Mary Chater was cruelly emotionally manipulated, and this was done not only to draw fuel from her by way of responses, but to pursue that residual benefit of money. An intelligent, grieving woman who was vulnerable found herself being drawn into the narcissist romance scam, and at the same time, an innocent Danish doctor found that his identity was being misused. The relevant individual had no emotional empathy for either of them, acted with a sense of entitlement to manipulate Chater with a view to controlling her, to draw fuel from her, and, of course, to gain the residual benefit. Other narcissists clearly have used Boving's identity, which has been utilised in thousands of instances to try and con people. But not every instance, as I pointed out earlier, will have involved a narcissist. In some instance, it'll just be normals, uncaring of those that they're dealing with, utilising his identity also. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.